Rishi, it is absolutely wonderful to have you on Filme Shilmy. I recently heard Zakham, which is your latest track, and I think it is such a banger. So a huge congratulations and a welcome as well to you on
Thank you.
platform.
Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much.
So, Rishi, I think when it comes to sampling, I mean, you are pretty much the king of that. When it comes to, referencing old Hindi songs and creating it with new beats and adding your own tadka to it. Um, but I must say, Malik Mere from Zakham is quite I mean, it's not a very popular song. So, how did you discover it, and what made you decide to sample that song in particular?
Great question. So basically, what was happening? I was in the studio, like how I am now, and I was with Kirani, and I was like, I want to do a song which reminds me of when I was in India. I remember on tour with Jay and Juggy, and I used to hear this song Shamor, Let the Music Play, a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh,
And then obviously after that, Truth Hurts came with Kaliyon Ka,
yeah, yeah,
with that. And these songs, it made people dig and find out where's these samples from, because they're not popular samples, they're not, they're
yeah,
not commercial samples. So Kieran played me Malik Mere from Zakham, and I loved the vibe of it.
mm,
I loved the vibe, and I thought this is a sample, this is a track where um, people are going to hear it and they're going to think, actually, I don't know what it is, but I've heard it somewhere. It's got this
mm,
haunting, nostalgic feeling about it.
true.
And I wanted to sample something which wasn't too that everyone knew. I really wanted people. I wanted to sample something that was a bit of an underground or a hidden gem kind of thing. And funny enough, a few people have said to me that they've had to really find and dig deep where I took the sample from, and
True.
figure out where. And just only today I'm actually going to post up on my social medias and show how I constructed the track. Like I took it from Zakham and what I did and stuff. So it was that, and that's the thing I like doing. I like to kind of take samples and see if they can work, and and give someone that nostalgic, that feeling that actually, because it can. The good thing is that when not a lot of people have heard it, it sounds fresh. If that makes
Mm,
sense,
mm, mm, mm,
like
mm.
a new sound. It's like a new song to a lot of people, even though it's old.
It's true. It's true. And I think you did that with Nakre actually as well, with the Bazigar song as well. Because even when I had the
Yeah, yeah.
it sounded very familiar, like, but it's not a very popular song from the album. I mean, when you've got other hits like
No,
Kali Kali Aankhein and all of that, I think it
you
kind
got
of
different. Yeah,
adds a mystery to, like you said. So I think that's very, very, very interesting. But I think sampling is very different from remixing. I think it's also very important to highlight here for the viewers, because obviously you're not recreating that song. You're paying a tribute to that song by sort of customizing it to your own composition and to your own creations, right? So I mean, so what makes a good sample song, and what makes a good piece of music which has sampling from an original classic track?
yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because obviously sampling is such a different. It's a skill. It is a skill in itself, where
Mhm.
to listen to old music, and I think where my love for sampling comes from hip hop. Like
Yeah,
I've grown up on hip hop,
yeah.
and if you listen to all the hip hops, you know, a lot of the hip hop tracks I've sampled like old jazz records, old soul records. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of Notorious B.I.G., which is my favorite artist, hip hop artist. A lot of his stuff is very much soul. A lot of sampling. So for me, when I sample, I love the fact that I can take a sample and I really listen and dig deep, like listen to what I can take from a song, and then I create around it a new song. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. To be fair, but that's the whole fun of sampling. Like you can, like I have days, like I call it sampling days, where I listen to music and I see what I can do with it. You know, and I feel that even the next few singles I've sampled so much music. Because I feel that's my. I'm not saying that's something that I found my sound again, but that's something which I feel that I enjoy at right now as a producer. I'm really enjoying that, and I did that with Stolen with Jay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Chura liya hai tumne. Oh
I did
God, yeah.
Piralia, yeah, I did that with Kya Kule Hum. track, I. We did that where I took the dee dee
Mm. Yes,
I took
yes,
that,
I remember. I remember. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But that guitar is taken from dee dee from Ashiki. So I took that and I made that song out of it, and a
Mhm.
lot of my stuff, and obviously I love sampling flutes and I love sampling instruments. So yeah, it's about kind of not getting in the way of the sample, but also having the ability to write and and produce a new song around the sample, which I think Zakham actually is probably the most I've sampled because I've used the actual sample as the
Yes,
hook.
yes, I was gonna say actually, I'm literally all I've what I tell you what, for the last few days, the words chor ki zulm ki rahe aur pyar ki raah pe aaja
Yeah.
has literally been stuck in my head and I've been singing it non-stop. So it's literally been etched in my head. But I think even in Mubaraka as well, the title song, you had Yamma Yamma, I think, sampled in
Exactly.
that as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I took the ding 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 ding. I took that from Adi
Yeah, yeah,
Berman.
yeah.
Yamma
And you
Yamma.
can
Yeah.
even hear Yamma Yamma actually in the beginning, like very
Yeah.
subtly
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
kind of mixed in with
Yeah.
the Pari Wali Night hai,
I,
Mubaraka kind of.
I love doing, that's something that I really enjoy because I think I have a great ability in the sense of like making it work. And I think for me, and it does come from me being such a fan of hip hop music. It really does.
Yeah, I was gonna say actually, Rishi, I feel like your music very much sort of defines, like reflects you as a person, because you are Indian at heart. You love your Bollywood, you love the Desi music, but then also you have this affinity towards hip hop as well. And I guess that whole fusion represents you as a person, correct? Like if I'm not wrong, if
100%. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Hip hop, R&B, Punjabi music, Bollywood music is what I've grown up on, and that's exactly my genres of a producer. Everything I've done has elements of either or one,
sure.
or all, and it's from 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 literally my early work to up till now. Everything I do, like I haven't just produced an Indian song. If you listen to Pal Pal Dil Ke Paas, the title song I did, yes, we have Arijit, we have a beautiful composition and a song, but the beats are very soulful. The drums are very soulful and they're quite hard hitting, you know. And if you listen to Gully Boy and things like that, it's very hip hop, but it's still got this element of nostalgia on it. And a lot of the stuff that I've done with Break the Noise, has that element. So that's something which is that's my sound. That really is my sound. It's just a genre, a fusion of just music that I've grown up listening to.
Right, right. But I think, Rishi, because we have rightfully sort of distinguished between remixes and sampling, and we've often spoken about this whole remix culture that has taken prominence. I think in the first interview that we did together, which was what I think for Nakre, I think with you and Jay,
Yeah.
we spoke a lot about the remix culture and why it's happening and all of that. But I think amidst this, because there is that whole culture that's existing right now, for you as an independent creator, how difficult is it for you to sort of stay away from that whole influx of remixes and all of that? How challenging is it for you to stay focused into composing original and creative music?
Um, it's a choice, isn't it? It's a personal choice. Like I started off doing remixes when I was in Too Cool. My Love to Love series are all remixes. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
something that I started doing that's how I started. Um, and I would never say no to if I had to do remix, but the song had to be right. And I would have to really think if I could do justice to it.
Mm,
Like if
mm,
I'm gonna take an iconic, especially like an R.D. Berman song and remix it,
yeah.
I probably, that's why I've always sampled his stuff and not remixed it in that sense because, some things you just have to be left alone. That's my personal preference and my personal opinion. However, I also believe that a good remix, I think one of the best remixes to come out that I've enjoyed was from Simba.
Oh,
And I can't remember the
Akmare.
song. Ark. So I think personally that is if you had to define like what remix did real justice to the original, I think it's that. That's my opinion because I really enjoyed that, and what it did, it opened up the new generation to the original, and
Mm,
that's the thing about remixes. That it kind of makes people think, okay, I want to go back and hear the original, and if they like the composer or the singer of the original, then they become a fan. Like if you'd never heard Kumar Sanu, if you're a young person right now and you love hearing, you love a remix which has got him, you'll probably become a fan of all of his work.
Hmm.
And that for me is a great advantage of doing a great remix. Sampling is totally different because it's just taking elements from songs and making a new song. So yeah, I think it's just a personal preference. Like, if I get asked to do a remix, I really have to think twice. I have turned down quite a lot of remixes only because, you know, uh, I just don't want to do a bad job to a great original. So I rather not do it. So that's always been my case.
Understandably so as well, because I think that's the thing though, isn't it? Like I feel like because there has been such a huge quantity of remixes coming out and remakes coming out, I feel like it's where the remixes are not bad, but I think it's just sometimes the way they do it, it just completely butchers the original. I think what you said here was so true. Like you mentioned with Kumar, it actually pays a tribute to the original song. So does Dilbar from Satyam Vijayate as well, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
absolutely love that song even now. So I think you're right. I think it's that balance, isn't it? I think that the composers or producers need to have to ensure that they do not do a disservice to the original classic song that they're emulating for the
yeah.
new version.
And also there's some beautiful music coming out, original songs coming out independently and in films. But I think this 1 year of film music kind of coming to a standstill gave the opportunity to great independent composers to put out music, which I felt
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
the last 12 months you've seen an influx of a lot of independent music being released, and of great new songs which could easily be in a film, but they as an independent release. So I think it's given a great kind of opportunity for that as well.
Hmm. And it's interesting as well because it's funny actually. What another thing that I've realized, if we do it, if Indians do it to an Indian song, then it's like criticized. But then if you have a film like Inside Man, which kind of samples or includes, I think it was Chaya Chaya, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
and
in
the
the, in the, yeah,
opening
yeah, yeah,
tracks,
yeah,
people are like, oh
yeah.
my God, that song is featured in a Hollywood film. So I feel like there's also a bit of a double standards that even exist, I think, in
Yeah,
terms of the reactions, you know?
I feel that. I have felt that in the sense where, um, if a non-Indian artist or producer samples an Indian track, it gets a lot of light shone upon it. And I faced a lot of that back in the day when I would put tablas and stuff into my R&B songs, and people would be like, "Don't do that." But then they would love when Timbaland would do it, because Timbaland's like one of my mentors, in the sense I've looked up to him so much. So it's one of those things. But it's I think for me, like, I dip into different cultures as well. Like I love sampling Japanese drums or Chinese kind of instrumentals or strings and stuff like that. Not knowing actually, am I doing something wrong here or not? I just, if I like it, I sample it. So I guess Indian music is beautiful and it should be sampled and taken by not just Indians. So it's a good thing, and I hope that you know many more artists, be it Asian artists, be it non-Asian artists, just really go and see what they can take from our culture, because it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, very well said there as well. And I think when it talks about cultural appropriation, I feel like we're very quick to, I feel like we need to have a bit more uh balanced views, I think, on that, especially like I mentioned with this whole double standards which exists.
Yeah,
So I mean, I think it's changing. I mean, do you think it's changing with the
I think it's changing, because I think at the moment everything is on the level playing field in terms of music and in terms of what is going out there. And I think there is this certain blanket of emotion from people that we're actually proud if someone takes our music and puts it in a film, or
Mm,
uses it for a soundtrack, or uses somehow. I mean, like, look at you know uh what A.R. Rahman did with J-Ho, and how it got to
yeah.
into a pop record, or Will I Am, and things like that. There's so many things that have happened, um, that are just have to be celebrated. And I hope we
Mhm.
have more.
That's so true. So Zakham, obviously, because it is such a haunting vocals, but I think Muhammad Aziz as well, and Asha Ji in the original track, but you've obviously just sampled Asha Ji's part. So have you sent the have has she heard the new
Yeah, we
version?
have. Yeah, we have.
Oh,
We have. Yeah, we've sent it to her. A good friend of mine has sent it. We're still awaiting just to see what she thinks, you know. But the fact that we've got it to her, and you know, we have, you know, I think obviously we've tagged her and stuff. So let's see, you know. I mean, that would be an amazing thing, you know, a tick in my career, to be fair, because you know, like I've got a picture of Ardy Burman in my studio, and you know, I'm such an Ardy Burman and Asha G fan, and you know, if you know, one day I have met her briefly, but you know, my dream actually is for her to come to the studio and just hear, you know, and just hear how much I've sampled her vocal, you know.
Mhm.
So that would be a great something on you know, on my tick list, you know.
That's wonderful. And I know again in the video, I think it's picturized on I think Chunky Pandey and Neelam. Um,
Neelam, yes.
so I mean, have you sent it to them as well? Have they sort of heard the track? Have they, you know, given it a
I
listen to
don't know. I mean, you know, our label might have sent it to them. We've obviously included them where we can in our tags and stuff like that. You know, I mean, there's a lot of friends I have in the industry who have asked me like, when let me know if you want us to send it and get them to listen to it. So let's see. You know, I think one thing is that you can't really pressurize people to list. You just got like, if they like it, they will like it. You know, like how Kajal really kind of got back to us with Nakare and she
Oh
tweeted about
yeah,
it.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my God, that was amazing. I felt so happy when
Yeah,
that happened. I was like, oh my God, yeah.
yeah, and that was obviously through, you know, one of Jay's friends who got it to her, and you know, and got her to listen to it. So things like that are just really kind of, you know, they really, you know, help and make us smile. You know, the fact that we've paid tribute to a song which featured, you know, this actor, and they've acknowledged what we've done.
Yes, absolutely. That's so very true. I think, you know, speaking a bit more about you, Rishi, even though we've had so many panel talks, but we've never actually got to do a one-on-one. And I think this is the first
Mm,
time where I'm actually speaking
yeah.
with you a bit more about your life. And I think, you know, before you, Juggy, and Jay, I feel like the only person that we had in the British Asian music scene was actually Apache Indian, if I'm not wrong. I think there was him and a few others as well that was around at that time. But you, I think, really broke the ice in terms of sort of amalgamating Western with Indian music as well. So I think when you first began to seeing, you know, yourself now like foray into India and gives us some amazing, amazing music with some wonderful film soundtracks as well. I mean, you know how much of a fan I am of Duri from Gully Boy. So how would you describe the sort of journey you've had from then and now? And how difficult has it been to really cement your presence and to really get your voice heard almost literally?
I mean, you know, I think what you mentioned is correct. You know, Apache Indian, I would say even Bali Sagoo,
Bali
you know, it
Saguru,
was
yes.
so Bali Sagoo. You know, someone my personal favorite was Taz from Stereo Nation, because for
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
him, you know, when it was Johnny Z and Hit the Deck was one album where, you know, I was like 13 years old then, 12, 13. I remember going to Southall, buying it with my mum and listening to this Punjabi music fused with like Western music, you know, like you would hear on top of the pops. And I was like, I've never heard this before, you know, this
Mm,
sound.
mm,
Um, and also, yeah, you have Apache and Bali was doing, you know, I think he must have been the first to mix reggae and Punjabi music together, you know.
mhm.
So everyone had their things. I think for me, I just really wanted to be a part of this culture and our industry. Um, and I guess what my thing was that I was, without knowing it, I was just developing myself as a producer from in my teenage years by, you know, having a little studio in my mum's house, producing, you know, like remixing records with R&B and hip hop, because I love, that's what I was listening to, and obviously Indian music. And when I got the chance to really kind of be out there and get my music heard, I went full force. I was like, okay, I'm gonna really represent my culture, but I'm not gonna take out, you know, I think from then till now, I don't think I've changed in the sense my sound and what I believe
Mhm.
in and what I fight for. You know, like I really fight for the fact that, and I go through it on a weekly basis. People like, you know, maybe you need to do a song like this, or I'm like, no, I'm gonna do what I've always done, and that's it. You know, and that's something which is embedded in me because I'm so passionate about like being a British Asian from Harrow. You know, the fact that I lived in Atlanta, the fact that I live in Mumbai, all these cultures are in me. Um, I'm a big fan. I'm a big kind of person who is been there for the British Asian scene, like that movement, you know, and I support it fully still to this day. You know, I still am that person who I'm very proud of the way that the industry has taken, and the journey it's taken, and my own journey has always been a case of like I always want to represent my culture, and it was very hard in the beginning,
Mm,
especially when we were trying to you know, break kind of barriers, and when I was working with Jay, and I remember constructing his album with him, me against the music, myself. Um, things like Holding On and Stolen and things like that. Well, really, we had to say to the label like it's a pop song, but we have to have some sort of culture in it, and that's
yeah.
something that I done. And
Mhm.
we got our message across, and I still try and do that now. And I think that's the one thing where I'm there's a lot of things that I might not be confident uh you know like for, but the one thing is my music, like in the sense that I am very confident, like confident in the sense where when I do something I genuinely love it, and when I talk to people like yourself and even people from the industry, they're like, we love what you've done and how
Mm,
you done this, and that is all encouragement, because it shows that it's not just the song that's just going to come and go. I want to be, I've always wanted to be there. And I mean, 20 years I've been in the industry, and I
mm.
still do that. I still get butterflies when I hear my song on radio, or to wait if it made a playlist, or whatever. It's still, I still have that same kind of that teenage boy kind of that thing in me where it's still very important to me to represent. So
Mhm.
yeah, the journey's been great. The journey's been really good. I think helping me. I think the one thing that I can always take back from this journey is that how many people I've helped in the industry.
Mm.
Like I haven't been self-centered in the sense where it's been about me, because it's not. Otherwise, you would see me in the video. Like I'm very much just a studio person, a studio producer.
That's
Where
true.
and I,
Yeah.
and I in with finding artists, I'm developing them, launching them. There's
Mhm.
and to see all these artists that I've worked with blossom into these stars in our industry has been great.
I'm glad you mentioned this actually, because I was going to ask you about this, because I know for a fact that you I mean, Yash Narvekar is a fab singer, and he's obviously had a lot of hits as well. But I think the sort of collaborations you've had, I mean, Kya Hua, I mean, what a song. Even now I still listen to it and it works somehow. I don't know about that song. I feel like it hits harder when you're going for a walk in the park during winter and you've got your jacket on. It just hits harder. I can't describe it, but it's one of those songs which sort of evokes such
Yeah,
emotions within you. But then even now, in addition to Yash, you also have Rush as well, who does the
yeah.
rapping for Zakham. So it seems like, do you kind of see yourself within the independent artists you choose to support? Because it almost seems like it's almost like that young Rishi kind of looking at the Rishi now looking at the young Rishi within the artists you choose to back. Is this something that also crosses your mind when you sort of look out for an artist to support?
Yeah, I think I'm always, it's funny you say that because I always do think, okay, what would the 20-year-old me kind of be thinking if
Yeah.
this artist walked through the door, you know? And yeah, I guess it's something where, I get so excited to still kind of work and meet new artists and discover new artists, and, you know, Yash being one, obviously, I didn't discover him, but I did kind of play a big role in a sense of being someone that's, I would say, taught him a lot about morals and good morals and about the industry and how to, just things. And now with Rush, and then we've got Jagtar, who was here in Mumbai just a couple of weeks ago, who I was working with. Ravina Mehta that we did Jubtu Hai Vahi with last year. She was someone that, reached out to me on Instagram, and now, a year later, she's just done a song with Tiger Shroff, and she's really blossomed
Wow.
into a great artist here. So it's kind of, for me, it's very much the same approach I have. Like, does this artist touch some sort of emotion in me? Like, I can see, it's very difficult to see an artist at its rawest stage.
Mhm.
But I always see, okay, if this person, he or she had like a year's work put into them in developing songwriting, composing, just the way they look, the dress, the etiquette, the way they talk, media training, all this is something which is something that I've done with a lot of my artists that I've worked with. And I kind of have that knack to see that quite early on,
Yeah.
which is quite cool. And some of the artists I worked with haven't done as well as I wanted to, and I'll be honest with you. but it's been a learning thing to say, okay, so what went wrong? And I like to evaluate and kind of really to see, okay, maybe I should have done this. And if I do take on someone else like that, maybe I'll choose a different route, But
Mhm.
it's still the same, man. It's still the same feeling I have.
Yeah. I think roughly, I think around, was it this time last year? I think, or around this area, I think we spoke around sorry, Justice for Ricky Real, which was again a track which you, Amit Chana and Kiran had sort of collaborated with Sukhdev Aunty with. And again, that was a very, very important song, which is an ongoing sought for justice, which 20 years later has still not been delivered. And I think when it comes to songs like that, when you have a cause, when you have a voice to be heard, um, at that point, I remember you mentioned as well, there was a slight time when people suddenly turned their backs on you, because of the fact that it was a cause, it was an issue you're addressing. So people got fearful and they just turned your backs on you. And the same people,
Mm.
when you gave Nakreb, were coming running towards you for opportunities. And again, it's that whole double standards I wanted to address as well. How does that impact you, Rishi, though? Especially when it comes to independent content creation, because it's not easy to make your own label and to stand by your label. It's so hard, and to constantly, it's a battle of every day. So when you see double standards like this, and when you face such fickle behaviors of people by the industry, how do you deal with that? How do you cope with that?
Um, yeah, I mean, to go back, yes, it's very hard to run an independent label. It's very difficult to stand up and fight for what you believe. And to stand, obviously, we're competing with a lot of big labels out there. And the Ricky Real thing was exactly a year ago, actually. It was the
Mm,
22nd of October that the track was out. So it is 1 year ago we did that. And look, the thing is that I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've kind of, uh, it still does frustrate me a lot, but I'm not the person I was where I would get very angry and stuff. Like you have to be kind of built like a little bit of a stone in this industry, because it is a game. It's sometimes it's not about the music, and it is very upsetting. If you see a lot of artists, I've seen so many artists go through so much heartache in the sense where their songs haven't been playlisted, or people aren't responding the way they think they could, or they should have, or they wanted to. um and I think with the with the Justice for Real track, I think it was just a case of a lot of people were just being protective, like they want to get involved, but they just want to make sure that they don't get into trouble, or cause any more, which I personally think is wrong. I think that if you're going to be, I'm a fighter for the cause. I am, I'm that kind of person that if I believe in something, I will fight for it until the end. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the smallest thing. So I get what people were doing. Some people were just like, we're going to stay away from it. We love it, but we can't be seen to support it. Now, when it comes to just giving people other stuff to be involved with, then yes, they get on board. And I totally understand it. If I was that kind of, if I was a person who would get upset about every little thing in this industry, then it would be very difficult for me to be creative.
mm,
So because to be creative, you need a very open, pure, no stress, that kind of mind, and that's why producers and artists, but producers they go on breaks. They have like 2 weeks off because they need to declutter their mind. Because when you're in the studio, you're in a creative zone. You're producing. You can't
mm,
be kind of taking on other things. So yeah, I think I've never been, I do voice my opinion when I feel like I should. And there's probably more I probably could do if and maybe I will do in the future, because you know but for now, my priority has always been now, especially for the last year, is the label. And the fact that we took that song and we helped Sukhdev Aunty, I think is itself an achievement, the biggest achievement. Whether
mm,
people play it or not, whether people get behind it or not, that's something else. The fact that the four of us, with Amit Chana, Raj Guy, myself, Kirani, we actually stood up and said, we're going to help you, Auntie, when she asked a lot of people from the industry, and for
yeah.
whatever reason they did, but we did. So for me, that's the biggest achievement. And to say, you know what, we're going to put it out on the label. We're going to We're going to make sure the visuals are right. We're going to get it to, and look where we are now with that case. It's really moving.
Yeah.
And you know, I love the fact that we had an event a couple of days ago with over 110 people joined on Zoom, and we had MPs on there, and they started the whole event with our song, and that was beautiful. It was like that message is being heard. So for me, that's the biggest achievement. And if someone, that is the reason why we did that, not for anything else. Yes, it would have been great if we had got a lot more support, but we got the right support that we needed.
But
So
that's
it
the
kind of worked.
problem, Rishi, and I know, sorry, I'm kind of diverting a little bit, but the problem is this, when it comes to our own people, when it comes to Indians supporting Indians, I feel like it just it's completely silenced, and I feel like this is exactly what's happened in Ricky's case. And I think that's why I felt very, very strongly about it as well. I remember reading it actually when I was like 13, 14, online. Somehow I just came across it. And for many, many years, it kind of bothered me about why there wasn't much noise about it. But I'm really glad that at least you, Raj, Kiran, Amit sort of rose up to it and kind of supported the cause. And I know Sukhdev Aunty is still fighting for justice, but I think there's definitely a ray of hope now. And the fact that, we're at least having a conversation about Ricky now, I think is so important. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really glad that you guys did that. And I'm really glad that at least Raj gave me the opportunity to sort of, speak with you guys about it. And I'm really glad that that could
yeah.
happen as well.
Thank you. Yeah,
So, I mean, I think when it comes to other sort of areas of music, you recently composed the opening track of Bad Boy Billionaires as well. So I guess that must have been a very, very unique experience for you, because here it's obviously something you've not done before, right? Where you're composing an opening track for a series. So what was
yeah.
that experience for you like?
I mean, I've done similar things to that, where I've done score and BGM, and I've done title music before. I did Amar Tony, the
Oh
British film that
yes,
came
yeah,
out,
yeah, yeah.
so I did the title for that. But this, yeah, I mean, it was this was brilliant because I'm actually currently working on a new Netflix series which I'm doing the BGM, which is really interesting, similar to Bad Boy Billionaires. But with Bad Boy Billionaires, they just wanted me to do the title. So this, I saw clips from what the actual series was going to be about,
Hmm.
and funny enough, it was this was a strange thing. When I did Gully Boy, right? When I did Gully Boy, and
Yeah.
I knew that Zoya was wanted to hear, Ankur Tiwari was the music supervisor. He was like, "I'm going to come and hear your stuff, and then I'm going to play it to Zoya and see what she likes."
Uh-huh.
So I had locked myself in my studio, and I went, "Okay, this is a great opportunity because I really want to be a part of this film." And I composed and produced around 10 different kind of tracks. One of them being Doody, just the instrumental, Eki Rasta, the poem. This Bad Boy Billionaires, the music was, I did that then. So I
Hmm.
actually did that. So when Zoya chose what she chose, which was great, Doody, so I had all these other tracks left over, that I thought, okay, maybe for another project I'll use them. So when I was approached for Bad Boy Billionaires, they said, look, we need this kind of vibe, and I was like, okay. So I composed some new stuff, and I actually put some old, not old, but stuff I'd worked on, and
Yeah.
they went with this one. So I just, once I got the credits, I looked at it and I just kind of retouched it. So it was brilliant, and I love the fact that, again, I think people, kind of messaging me saying, even if they'd seen my name on the title screen, but they were like, we knew it was you. It had your kind of flavor
Yeah,
on it.
I was gonna
But
say it was very Rishi Rich for sure,
yeah.
actually.
And I think the same time I did the Google advert as well for 2020. In 2020, I did that last year for Google India, which was again very much a great, and it happened similar kind of experience. So working on stuff like that is very different to obviously working on film and obviously working on independent music. So I love the fact that I can have opportunities to work in all three different kinds of fields
Everything.
of music production. Yeah,
Hmm. And I think you've also mentioned, I think in another interview that we did, about you wanting to explore background scoring and that side of music production as well.
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
when it comes to that, uh, what how do you know what style of music best suits? I've always been curious to know, and I still stand by this, but for me, the best background score I've heard, I think, is probably Sanchit and Ankit Balhara's music in Padmavat, the Johar sequence. For me, the music in that will still forever haunt me. So, and I just am curious to know actually, how do you know what beats to use, what rhythm to use? How do you know all of that? And how do you manage to sort of create that for background scoring?
Um, yeah, I mean, background scoring is a different skill in itself, and I wouldn't even claim myself as an expert because I am still learning. Because there is a certain skill in timing of how you know what music suits this emotion.
Yeah,
When you're watching a scene, you know, you can play three different types of music, which will change the emotion, which will give the viewer a different experience.
true.
So like if you play something which is quite sad and romantic, you will feel that, but the scene might not require that. So it's a tough, it is very difficult, and I love it because I'm still learning about background and BGM. I'm still really enjoying and learning about it. I'm currently scoring, like I said, a Netflix drama where I'm doing the whole background music, the BGM and everything.
Wow.
So yeah, and I did the Amanak Batoni, which was a bit different because that was more kind of hip hop. So it was, I just had to kind of put tracks in places. BGM, when in terms of when you're scoring to picture, is something which is and I give my hats off to people who do it on a regular basis because that you need, and it's something which producers have. Like we know what scene, or okay, this scene requires this kind of mood, and that's actually how I learned music. When I was in school in
Mm,
Harrow,
mm.
what our exams were like, okay, make a song about love, or compose a piano piece about love, compose a piano piece about rain. They'll give us situations, and we had like an hour to go into our music rooms and compose something, and
Wow,
that's how we learn to score to emotion or play to emotion or mood.
that
So
is
it's quite,
incredible.
it's quite cool. If you look at things like, for example, keyboards, like your Yamaha or Casio keyboards,
Yeah.
when you see the section that says styles, if you click bossa nova or salsa, you know what you're going to hear.
Mm,
It's
true.
very similar to that. Like you have to learn to kind of, okay, this is the this is what the scene is saying to me, and this is what I need to kind of give it. Because music can change a mood.
Mm.
Whether it's on screen, whether it's in real life. So it's something which is very interesting.
That is very true. And I think it's wonderful to sort of hear you experience these different various aspects to music production. And yeah, but like I said, I think coming back to Zakham on a final note as well, it's you're back in your element, I think, when it comes to sampling. And it's something which you'll recognize you for, individuals like myself have grown up listening to that and bopping to that. So it obviously is pretty much your element. So I guess going forward now, is sampling something which you're quite excited to be exploring more of as well going forward, or are
Yeah,
you open to everything and anything?
yeah. I mean, I'm also not. I'm doing songs which aren't, contain no samples as well. Like I'm doing my album, which is complete sample free.
Oh
In a sense,
wow.
complete, yeah, it's complete like my album of what I love producing as well. Like the project album I did, which is R&B, Punjabi, Sufi, Hindi, hip hop. It's just a mixture of everything. And the fact is that I think since being in India, I've struck a great relationship with labels here where they've given me opportunities to sample. Before, like I've wanted to sample, it's really hard to clear samples or to get the rights or whatever. I've been given a little bit of free reign where I've been a bit spoiled, but they said, okay, just whatever you need for my catalog, take. So I'm just like, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take that, and I actually love it. So yeah, the a few tracks that will be coming out soon will be having samples in it. But it's fun because it especially to producers out there, it kind of shows what ways you can use samples, in different ways.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I think it's very exciting. I think when I heard Zakham as well, it looked really good because I love the way you had the typical Hindi film logo as well on the album, on
Yeah,
the cover as well. So it was
yeah,
very nice because it adds this sense of nostalgia as well as freshness. And I just wish it was longer though. Like it was 2 minutes, I think 50 seconds or something.
yeah,
I wish it
yeah.
was like 3 minutes or something because it was such a good song. And I think as time goes on, it's only gonna get even more popular, and I'm really looking forward actually to seeing more work emerge from you as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope so too. I can see from people out there that Zakham is really just taking this. It's growing. It's growing. It's just getting people really kind of, like you said, it's haunting. It's a haunting song in a weird way, and it's one of those things you hear it and you might think, okay, I want to hear it again, or I want to hear, or and you put it on at certain. So I'm glad that it's kind of growing on people the way I love producing it. I really did.
Yeah, and that's the great thing as well. Again, before I sign off as well, Rishi, is the fact that, you know, आजकल लोग ना कुछ भी कर देते हैं just to kind of make a song catchy. They basically just care about the numbers and care about the instant reactions. But I think that's where you step in, and that's where you're a breath of fresh air, because you contain amazing elements of creativity, craft, as well as catchiness. And I think that is something which is very, very rare, Rishi, which we desperately
Can you
need.
please you need to write that what you just said in the quote and send it to me, because that's what I fight for. Like, the fact that you said it is a breath of fresh air, and like I can't get involved in numbers, because it will take away my moral kind of code of how I make music and what I try and do, and that is the honest truth where, and it is, yes, it is a numbers game, but for me, it's always going to be about the music, nothing else.
Yep, and that's exactly how it should be now, regardless of what a person says or what people say. You'll always be my number one, and you know that, Rishi. So,
Thank you
on
so
that
much.
note, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for joining me once again on Filme Shilmy. It's always such a joy to chat with you and to have this one-on-one chat. And I think hopefully we'll do many more. I'm looking forward to
For
that
sure.
Netflix sort of series that you're doing the scoring for. I can't wait to hear it. I think it's going to be fab. And congratulations once again on Zakham.
Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Bye bye.
Bye.